Good evening. It's January 1st, 2025, and I'm sitting here with a highly decorated World War II veteran and humble, Mr. John J. Jeckovich. How are you doing today?
Good.
How's your first day of the new year?
Very good.
I heard you had a very special visitor today.
Amber?
Yeah, what a wonderful girl.
Yeah.
She lives about 45 minutes to an hour away, and she's a young girl in her 20s, Amber Nicole Jeckovich, a real wonderful person. And she's Mr. Jeckovich's great-granddaughter. She has a heart of gold. She comes here 3-4 days a week, maybe 5, to visit Mr. Jeckovich at his house, and they go over art together, they read. What else you do with Amber? The things you do with Amber when she's here.
Well, we sit outside and have lunch outside.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, they have lunch outside. So what a beautiful person. What a beautiful person. Amber is a full-time missionary. She surfs around the world. Even though she lives on the ocean, she can roll out of bed and literally be in the sand. She does travel around the whole world surfing. She just came back from 3 months in Malibu and Oceanside, California. Now she's headed to Martinique, and she'll stop by and see her friends in Nashville, Tennessee. And then from there, it's the big summers in Australia, so she'll probably be spending a couple months there, and then to Hawaii, and then back to Florida. She's just a wonderful girl. I guess that's a big difference, because when a person like Amber, her life is Christocentric, she devotes her life and everything to the Lord, that she has a heart. She has a heart that most people don't have today. Most people today are egocentric. They're worried about themselves and nobody else. They're selfish. And here's a great-granddaughter, way down the line. Right down the line, and she comes here all day to see Mr. Jeckovich, and just brings him joy and happiness, right?
Yeah.
Just brings him joy and happiness. Wow. It'll refresh your faith in young people by seeing someone like this. It really does. Wow. Can't say enough, and she's always toting that Bible. That Bible is really worn out. We tell her we'll buy her a new one, but she doesn't want to know nothing about it. She likes that old Bible. She has everything underlined, every page. So it's just a wonderful girl. It's just a wonderful situation. A wonderful situation. She understands people. She loves people. And she asks for nothing in return. So here we are, 2025. Wow. Mr. Jeckovich was born in 1925.
Yeah.
How quickly did 100 years go by?
Yeah.
How quickly?
Yeah.
Are you surprised you're knocking on the door of 100?
Oh, yeah.
Did it go by awfully quick?
Pardon?
Did 100 years go by very quick for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Jeckovich grew up during the Great Depression. You didn't think you were...
No, I didn't think we were. We had food, we had nice family surroundings and that, warm place to stay.
You had no problems.
Yeah.
When Mr. Jeckovich was a boy, he grew up during the Great Depression. If you would Google it, you could see it wasn't a nice time to be alive. But they all got along well. They didn't even know they were poor, because that's how they were raised. They did what they had to do. They did what assets were given to them, or what they earned. And when Mr. Jeckovich was a boy, the horse and buggy would deliver the milk.
Yeah.
The horse and buggy would deliver the bakery goods.
Yeah.
There was no TV. You couldn't turn on a TV because it wasn't invented yet.
Had a little radio.
You had a little radio. What did you listen to on the radio?
This Phil Fastal and the Old Girl Orchestra. And what's his name? Lawrence Welk.
So the radio was your entertainment, but most of the youngsters during that time spent their time outside doing things.
Yeah.
Ice skating, roller skating, hockey.
Doing a circle in the mud and playing with the marbles.
Yeah. So that was, how do you think kids today would do with marbles?
Nothing.
Not too good. Not too good. Mr. Jeckovich to show you how times were simpler. Times were simpler. They would, during the winter, they would disconnect, put a fire hose on a fire hydrant and freeze the street.
And I said on that, play hockey.
Yeah, and that was all in good faith. It wasn't something criminal. It was just what kids did. Now if you did that, you'd probably be arrested.
Yeah.
How times have changed. When Mr. Jeckovich, initially, did you have a phone in the house in 1925 and 1930 or not?
Yeah, we had a black phone on the side of the wall in the living room.
See, an interesting fact today, we have laptops, we have cell phones, we have all these devices that's supposed to make our life convenient. Do they make them convenient?
No.
When Mr. Jeckovich's phone, if you could picture on a wall, an earlier stage of his phone, it was just a black instrument with like a cord, a regular cord that you held to your ear and you talked into the base of the phone. And then he mostly had what was called a party line. You'd pick it up and other people
Somebody
would talk.
talking and yakking, or they're listening to you.
Yeah, they're listening to you.
Yeah.
And then you pick up the phone, you take the earpiece, you stick it in hold it to your ear, you're talking to the mic on the base of the phone on the wall, and you say, operator, connect me with, and there's usually a 4-digit phone number, 2624, and then they connect you and you would talk. And that's when the phones were to the wall, and you didn't move them, they're stuck there. So think about it. When the phone was tied down to the wall, people were free. People were free. When the phone was tied down to the wall, people were free. Because the only time you can talk is when you're in that room. Now, people will call you frivolously day and night, night and day. So
Drive me wherever you are.
how free are you? When that phone was tied down to the wall in that one room, you were free. You're not free today. Look at the dinners you just went to this week, and how many times on the dinner table at the restaurant you had your phone there. How many times? Think about it. You're not free.
Got your phone all the time.
Yeah, and think about it. Think about it. These kids, young kids, 8, 10, 11, 12, they're always on games, so how free is that? That's the babysitter. Give them a game, let them learn nothing, and go to dinner with them to a nice restaurant, and let them sit on the game.
Yeah.
Let them sit on the game. Wow. Life was simpler back then.
Huh?
Life was simpler back then. Now you have a situation that's quite different. Everyone's on the go. Anyone can reach you at any second of the day or night. For what reason? 90% of it's frivolous talk. What do they talk about? Nothing. Back then, when that phone was tied to that wall, you were free. You were a free person. Once you left that house, no one could contact you. You did what you planned on doing.
Yeah.
Now, if your plans are, say, for example, go to the store to pick up groceries, you might get interrupted 14 different times by 14 different people to go to a different route. Once that phone was tied to the wall 100 years ago, you were free, much freer than you are today. And look how simple things were. The husband would work, the wife would get this check on a Friday, she would do the grocery shopping, $20, $30 for a family of 4, right?
Yeah.
And it was it. Now, what do we have? We have the husband possibly working 2 jobs, and the wife out working 3 or 4 jobs. What kind of life is that? What kind of family is that?
They got babysitters.
Yeah, and many times when the wife goes to work, she only makes enough money to pay the babysitter.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose? To get out of the house? To let a babysitter that doesn't give a crap about your kids raising?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? And most of these so-called professional ladies that go to work, what kind of professional lady, if she has kids at home, would that be? Take care of your kids, that's number one. But now they have a home husband and a work husband. How sick, perverted, and foolish. But that's the way it is. What has happened to this society? 2025, not too impressed, are you?
Yeah.
Not too impressed. Not too impressed.
All government control.
Well, that's true too. We didn't get into that. That's another day. I always say, trust the government. Ask any Indian. Look how they screwed the Indians. Look at how they screwed the Indians. They were even trying to kill their buffalo so the Indians would starve.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So honestly, I think you grew up at a great time. Depression and all.
Yeah, well.
I think you had a good life. Look at you. Knock on the door of 100 and you're doing well. For example, if you're 40 years old now, you have a 10% chance of making it to 100. And with all these ultra-processed foods, everything's ultra-processed food.
Yeah.
Hell, you'd be lucky to make it to 50 or 60.
Yeah.
Everything is ultra-processed. The youngsters coming up today, they're what you call professional patients, because everyone has some type of prescription they're on to combat this illness and combat that illness. And most of the youngsters coming up today are professional patients. They're on some type of medication along the way.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeckovich never took a prescription in his life. Mr. Jeckovich never took an aspirin in his life. Did you drink, Mr. Jeckovich?
No.
Did you smoke?
No.
And the question about smoking is very interesting to Mr. Jeckovich, because when he was in the war for 4 years, most of those young teenage boys that were in the war, they were passed out cartons of cigarettes by the Red Cross.
Yeah. Unfiltered.
Unfiltered, yeah. What kind? Lucky Strike?
Pall Mall, Chesterfield.
Chesterfield. And the Red Cross would pass them out like candy bars.
Yeah. I think they're doing a good deed.
And with, yeah, I think they're doing a deed. And so the stress of the war, almost 95% of the youngsters started smoking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the women started smoking.
Women started smoking. And so the Red Cross were passing out during the war to these combat soldiers unfiltered cigarettes like candy bars. So if you didn't get killed during World War II, if you didn't get killed during the Battle of Bulge, if you didn't get killed fighting in the Pacific, you probably died 20 or 30 years later of lung cancer from smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cigarette companies back then were devious, and they're devious now.
And they named all the camps after cigarettes.
Tell us about that.
Lucky Strike, Pall Mall,
So you
reception camps.
see, the camps had tents, and they were named after cigarette brands.
Yeah.
The tobacco companies were devious then, and they're devious now. They're devious then, they're devious now. And if you pick up any magazine, any popular magazine from the 40s, 50s, or even the early 60s, there will be no warning that cigarettes are harmful. In fact, some of them will say, doctor recommended, if you have a cold or a sore throat, smoke a menthol filtered cigarette.
Yeah.
So they're promoting it as a way to cure your
Then
cold.
they pick up a package of smoke in front of the counter, the kids steal it, and that starts them off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me elaborate on that. Now, if you fast forward to the 70s and 80s, tens of thousands of 7-Elevens and convenience stores, the devious cigarette companies would put a display of cigarettes right at the front counter, right?
Yeah.
At the register. And why'd they do that?
They want the kids to steal it, and they start smoking, and then they come back for a whole carton.
Yes. So Mr. Jeckovich's point is absolutely correct. The devious, unscrupulous tobacco companies would put displays at the front counter at these convenience stores, so it made it very easy for a youngster to steal a pack. And the tobacco company's motto was, A pack stolen today is a carton sold tomorrow. Yeah. A pack stolen today is a carton sold tomorrow. Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. So after the war, just about everyone was smoking, right? Everywhere you turned around, people were smoking after the war.
Women started smoking too.
If you go into the restaurant, smoking.
Yeah.
Go on a bus, smoking. Go anywhere in public, smoking. Smoking on airplanes.
Yeah.
Smoking on airplanes. Wow.
Smoking in the house.
Yeah. Most of the cars, check this out. You verify this very easily. A lot of my old Cadillacs I have are from the 50s and 40s. And you can count them. There's 6 ashtrays in every sedan. Every sedan automobile made in the 40s and 50s and part of the 60s have at least 6 ashtrays in them.
Yeah.
Driver's door, passenger door, dead center in the rear, a driver's door, passenger door.
Yeah.
You have 6 ashtrays. And I don't mean these are ashtrays that are tiny. The front ashtray in the center of your dash is probably 14 inches wide.
Yeah.
Wow.
Making it convenient.
Yeah.
And that's the death stress.
Yeah. So it's funny, a lot of this started during World War II when the Red Cross were passing out cigarettes like candy bars. Did anyone in your family take up smoking?
Well, let's see. My father fought that Prince Albert stuff. We rolled his own.
Did you have to? Were you ever given the chore of rolling his cigarettes?
No.
He rolled them himself.
Yeah.
Did your mother smoke?
No.
Did your wife smoke?
No.
Did your wife's family smoke?
I think the father did. Yeah.
But even so, back in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and even up to the 60s, life was a lot simpler. You could fill up your tank, and those are huge tanks of cars back then. You could fill up the whole tank for $3. $3.50 most. Gasoline was like 17, 18, 19 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And when you pull up a gas station, what they do for you?
Wipe your thing, check your oil, check your air in your tires, wipe your windshields.
And they pumped it.
And they pump them, yeah.
And they pumped the gas on top of it. Think of us now, $3, $4, $5 a gallon. We're out there like beggars in the cold or the rain and having the privilege of paying a lot of money for cheap-ass gas, pump it into your car at over $100 a fill-up, and you stand outside holding this really nasty handle that everyone in the world's touched, disease-ridden handles, and that's how you do things today. What happens if you ask one of the clerks in 7-Eleven that you're pumping the gas to clean your windshield or check your oil?
There they go.
They'd laugh at you.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot one thing. They even check the air pressure in your tires.
Yeah.
And keep in mind this, cars are now very expensive, almost impossible to fix. You couldn't fix it yourself. Today you couldn't fix a car yourself. You have to have special tools that are only dealer-owned tools. It'd be impossible for someone to fix a modern car themselves. Back then you could fix a car.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room in the hood.
Yeah.
You fix a lot of your cars.
Yeah.
You change the oil.
Changed my international a lot.
You change your spark plugs.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it today. Today what you have is simply this. You have a computer on wheels. Today, 2025, you have a computer on wheels. Back then, 1925 and the 60s, you have a machine, a mechanical machine, which means it was built by a person, machine parts, no computers. So today, or 100 years from today, a man could still fix that automobile
Yeah.
from the 25s to the 60s. Today, once they got modern and are totally computers, they're basically throwaway. They're basically throwaways, because if you don't take it to a dealer, and if the dealer wants to charge you maybe $25,000 or $30,000 for a battery on your electric car,
9 minutes.
a lot of people can't afford that.
Look, Amber paid, what's she pay, $5,000 for the transmission?
$6,000 for a transmission.
Yeah,
There you go with these modern cars. And what
$6,000.
transmission did you change in years past? $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And a man could actually do it himself. Now everything, what you have is a computer on wheels. You have a computer on wheels. So you had a pretty good life back then, didn't you, Mr. Jeckovich?
Pardon?
You had a pretty good life back then.
Oh, yeah.
Simpler times, right? And then when TV came in the 50s, did your family get a TV?
He had a real small one, black and white, it wasn't color or nothing.
Oh, no color. And what'd you watch?
We watched Philip with Holland and the Orchestra. We watched Lawrence Welk.
And back then you had 3 channels.
I had 2 channels, then he knocked it off at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, at 10 o'clock your TV goes blank. You are done to the next morning.
Yeah.
Now what do we have, thousands and thousands of channels? Even with thousands of channels, there's still nothing to watch. But there you had 3 channels. ABC,
They give
NBC,
it
and
the news.
CBS.
They give it the news.
Yeah, 3 channels. That was it. 10, 11 o'clock, you're done for the night. You were done for the night, yeah. Isn't that amazing how times have changed? But if you think about it, since the inception of cars in the late 1800s, they started off as electric cars in the late 1800s. I mean, we have many more different features on them, but the car really hasn't changed. You have a body, you have an engine or a motor, you have a steering wheel, and you have 4 wheels.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing, but a lot of high-tech different versions.
Yeah.
They said we'd have flying cars in the 70s. What happened to that?
Yeah. Flying cars?
In the 70s, they said there'd be flying cars. And then what happened to that? Didn't
What
happen.
are they going to do with that?
It didn't happen then. Wow. So most of your vehicles you're able to work on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't work on them today. How about some minutes, please?
Seven.
Okay, I need the passcode to open up the laptop.
42965.
Okay, that opens up the computer. We're on chapter 22, Wedding and the Poconos, page 715. How many pages in this monster book?
849. 847.
That must took you a long time.
No, a couple of months.
Mr. Jeckovich was in Company H, the 2nd Battalion of the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Jeckovich lives by the motto, be kind to strangers, you'll never know when you're entertaining an angel. So here we go. Pick up a little reading, we'll get some in here. This is when it's titled Wedding and the Poconos. We traveled south on Route 15 and stopped for breakfast a short while later. It was strange being with Delphine the entire time, and I must confess, I was not attuned to it, but accepted it wholeheartedly, as with much cordiality and delight. I thought I knew her fairly well, but I discovered a more private and discreet person, which only reinforced the deep love I had for her. She was a contemplative person with many skills, and I approved very much of what I discovered on our first night together. We passed Painted Post. What happened at Painted Post besides you passing through during your honeymoon?
Well, that's where we picked up David when he ran away. That's where we picked up Looky when he ran away.
Why do you go to Painted Post?
That's where he wound up.
That's a small-ass little town.
Yeah.
What are you going to do there, stand in a phone booth? We passed Painted Post, a small rural community on Route 15, where I had driven to pick up Looky when he ran away from home just before he entered the service. Why do you think he ran away from home?
He didn't like the environment.
But wasn't he happy about going into the service?
Well, he worked in the bowling alley and he met the wrong people.
What did he do in the bowling alley?
Set pins.
Okay, here's another point of back then and now. Back then, the bowling alleys weren't automatic. They'd have a kid sit in the back of the bowling alley behind the pins, and as soon as the customer hit those pins, that pin setter would immediately set those pins, roll the ball back, and wait for the next shot.
Yeah.
So maybe this is better today that we have actually computerized and mechanical bowling setups than we did back then. So when you picked up Lookie at Painted Post, it's ironic that you're passing through there several years later on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
It's ironic. But what was his demeanor when you picked him up?
Well, he was real rejected. He says, what do you do? I said, David, what the hell? I said, Lookie, what the hell are you doing running away from home? Well, you guys are hard on me. Well, how are we hard on you? You don't do nothing at work. You don't want to help me or nothing.
How'd you find out he was at Painted Post?
Well, he started going over there all the time.
Oh, he started what?
He started going there all the time.
Well, did he have friends there?
No, he just stopped there, and then I guess he rested up and then make another trip someplace.
And he did it all by hitchhiking?
Yeah.
Holy God. I'd driven to pick up Lookie when he had run away from home just before I entered the service. I mentioned this to Delphine in passing, and she seemed interested, but not to pursue it in detail. So I dismissed it and did not elaborate on it any further. We passed Elmira on the border of New York and Pennsylvania and continued on to Williamsport in an easterly direction of Route 80. Was Williamsport, Pennsylvania still the baseball capital museum back then?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
After stopping for some lunch and stretching our legs, we moved on. Delphine was not very talkative at this juncture and seemed only engrossed in viewing the surroundings we were passing, as she was seeing them for the first time. It took me a while to realize that this was probably the longest car trip she had ever taken, and the trip itself was fascinating her. So did her parents take her anywhere?
I don't think so.
So this was her longest trip. Minutes, please. So you thought her parents didn't take her anywhere?
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Huh?
2.
So you entered to go Pennsylvania, and that's where the Poconos was.
Yeah.
And Delphine, your new bride, wasn't saying so much, she was just taking in the scenery.
Yeah.
And it's your belief because she never traveled that far before.
But I don't know. I don't think the parents did any much traveling, no.
When you were a boy, did your parents travel at all?
No.
But you had a Packard.
Well, they left that Packard in the garage until Stevie started driving. Then he drove us to school every day.
Did your father have a license?
No, my mother never had a license.
So it was just
He
you.
bought the damn car, put it in the garage, and left it there.
Packard's a very fancy car.
Well, he got it cheap for the people who worked at the car running them.
Yeah.
Some guy had it sold.
And the beautiful hood ornament. If you can see that hood ornament, it's like a man holding a great big disc.
Yeah.
It's the goddess of speed on those Packards. You remember the big hood ornament?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, all leather seats
Oh,
inside.
yeah.
Leather dash.
It's a monster car. Many of those Packards are around today, and they're straight 8 cylinders, cast iron. And those things are so reliable. You could, even if they've been sitting for 20 years, you could start them in a day. Minutes?
44 seconds.
So you had a good time with that Packard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you go to school in it?
The what?
Did Stevie drive you to school in it?
Yeah, after a while, I drove to school every day, yeah. As soon as I got a license, I drive it every day.
So a big black Packard
Yeah.
with a big hell of a goddess of speed hood ornament.
He wanted me to drive it, and I said, no, I'm walking.
You didn't want to go in it?
No.
Why?
Well, I said, I thought I'd be out in their life. We shouldn't be having a big Packard like that.
Right. Minutes?
6 seconds.
So you didn't want to drive it?
No.
You didn't want no part of it?
No.